The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what waited beyond. In the year 2347, they finally had their answer. And it was not what they hoped for. Admiral Junho Park stood on the bridge of the research vessel Hanyul, which meant sky in the old Korean language. He watched the view screen as strange ships surrounded them. These ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. They moved like living things, their metal surfaces shifting and glowing with colors that had no names in any human language. "They are hailing us." "Admiral," said Captain Minho Beak. The young pilot's hands were steady on the controls, but his voice carried a slight tremor. This was humanity's first contact with alien life. Everything they did now would be remembered forever. Junho nodded slowly. "Open the channel." The screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was not a human face. The creature had pale blue skin stretched over a skull that seemed too long. Its eyes were solid black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, its voice was cold and sharp. "You are the species from the Yellow Star. Sol, as you call it. We are the Valoran Dominion, senior members of the Galactic Council. You have entered space that does not belong to you." Junho kept his expression calm. He had commanded ships for 30 years. He had faced pirates, asteroids, and the cold emptiness of space. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Come in peace," he said. "We are explorers. We wish only to learn and to share." The Valoran made a sound. It might have been a laugh. "Peace. Yes, your kind always speaks of peace. We have watched you for some time. You fight wars among yourselves. You poison your own world. You breed without control and consume without thought." Behind Junho, Dr. Yuna Kim gripped the edge of her console. She was the ship's lead xenobiologist, and she had dreamed of this moment her entire life. But the dream was turning into something else. "We have made mistakes," Junho admitted, "but we have also grown. We have learned." "You have learned nothing," the Valoran said. "The Galactic Council has ruled this region of space for 50,000 years. We have seen species like yours rise and fall. You are classified as a Class 7. Civilization. Primitive. Temporary. Our projections show that you will destroy yourselves within 2 centuries. The words hit the bridge crew like physical blows. Temporary? The aliens spoke of humanity's extinction, as if discussing the whether we would like to send an ambassador, Junho said, keeping his voice level, to speak with your council, to prove that we are worthy of joining the galactic community. The Valoran considered this. Its black eyes revealed nothing. You may send one representative. But understand this, creature from Sol, the council does not welcome primitives. You will be heard, and then you will be forgotten. The transmission ended. 3 months later, Ambassador Hannah Choi stood in the great chamber of the Galactic Council. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent 40 years as a diplomat, solving conflicts that others said could never be solved. She believed that all beings, no matter how different, could find common ground. The chamber was vast beyond imagination. Thousands of alien representatives sat in floating platforms that circled a central stage. Hannah stood on that stage alone, beneath lights that made her feel like an insect under a microscope. She spoke for 3 hours. She told them of humanity's history. The wars, yes, but also the art, the cruelty, but also the kindness. She spoke of music and medicine, of poetry and progress. She spoke of how humans had pulled themselves back from the edge of destruction and learned to work together. When she finished, there was silence. Then the laughter began. It started with the Valorans and spread through the chamber like a wave. Thousands of alien voices, making sounds of mockery in 100 different ways. Some clicked. Some whistled. Some made deep rumbling noises, but all of them meant the same thing. The speaker of the council, an ancient Valoran named Yelthin, raised one thin hand. The laughter stopped. "Your species is noted," Yelthin said. "Your petition for membership is denied. You will return to your system and remain there. A quarantine zone will be established around your star. You are forbidden from expanding beyond it. When you inevitably destroy yourselves, we will study the remains. That is all." Hannah felt something break inside her. Not her spirit. Something else. Something that had held back a darker emotion for her entire life. "You have not even considered our words," she said. "We have considered them," Yelthin replied. "We simply do not care. You are a temporary ambassador. We are eternal. In the time it takes one of you to live and die, we barely finish a single thought. Your kind exists in the blink of an eye. Why would we waste our attention on a blink?" Hannah straightened her spine. She looked at the thousands of faces staring down at her with contempt or amusement or boredom. "I understand," she said quietly. "I will deliver your message to my people." Now, she turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. The aliens had expected her to beg, perhaps, or to weep. They had not expected dignity. When she returned to Earth, Hannah stood before the United Parliament. Every leader of every nation watched her. Cameras broadcast her words to every corner of the planet. "They do not fear us," Hannah said. "They do not respect us. They see us as insects, waiting to be crushed by time." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was harder than anyone had ever heard. "That is their first mistake." In the front row, Admiral Junho Park nodded slowly. Beside him, General Doyon Lee began making notes on a tablet. Humanity had wanted to join the stars in friendship. Now they would find another way. 5 years passed. Earth changed. On the surface, life continued as normal. People went to work. Children went to school. Couples married and had babies. The news spoke of sports and weather and politics. But beneath this ordinary surface, something else was happening. In hidden shipyards carved into asteroids, new warships took shape. These were not exploration vessels like the Hanyul. These were weapons. Their hulls were thick with armor. Their engines could push them faster than anything humanity had ever built. And deep in their cores, they carried secrets that would shake the galaxy. General Doyon Lee oversaw this work. He was a tall man with a face like carved stone. He rarely smiled. 40 years ago, raiders had attacked his home station. He had been the only survivor of his family. That memory lived in his eyes, cold and patient. "How long until the fleet is ready?" Admiral Junho asked during one of their secret meetings. 2 more years, Doyon replied. "Maybe less, if we push the workers." "We have time," Junho said. "The Council thinks we are beaten. They are not watching closely." He was right. The Galactic Council had already forgotten about the primitives from Sol. They had quarantined the system and moved on to other matters. Humanity was beneath their notice. This was their second mistake. On the colony world of Proxima b, life was good. The planet was humanity's first home among the stars, settled 50 years before first contact. 2 million people lived there, building cities and farms and futures. The sky was orange instead of blue. But the children who grew up there loved it just the same. Lieutenant Sujin Han was visiting her sister's family when the ships came. She was playing with her nephew in the garden. When shadows fell across the sun, she looked up and saw them. Dozens of vessels, black and angular, dropping through the clouds like falling knives. "Get inside," she told her nephew. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "Get inside now." The attack lasted 6 hours. The ships belonged to a species called the Crethini, allies of the Council. They moved through the cities with terrible purpose. They did not come to conquer. They came to kill. Their weapons turned buildings to ash. Their soldiers, if you could call them that, walked through the streets and destroyed everything they found. Sujin survived by hiding in a collapsed building with 17 others. Through a crack in the rubble, she watched her sister's home burn. She never found the bodies. When rescue ships from Earth finally arrived, they counted the dead. 2,300,000 people. Men, women, and children. An entire colony, wiped out in a single day. The news reached Earth like a shockwave. Admiral Junho was in his office when he heard. He sat very still for a long time. Then he stood, walked to his window, and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives. Not yet knowing that the universe had declared war on them, Ambassador Hannah Choi demanded answers from the council. Their response came 3 days later. "We have investigated the incident," Speaker Yelthin's recorded message said. "The Chthoni acted independently. This appears to be an internal human conflict that spilled beyond your quarantine zone. The council takes no responsibility and will not intervene." Internal conflict. 2 million dead, and they called it an internal conflict. But Dr. Unikim knew better. She had spent 5 years studying every piece of alien technology and communication she could find. And she had discovered something hidden in the Chthoni ship signatures. They were authorized, she told the emergency council meeting. The attack was sanctioned by at least 3 council member species. I found their communication codes embedded in the Chthoni command signals. Why? General Doyan asked. Why attack a civilian colony? Yuna's face was pale. It was a test. I found references in their communications. They wanted to see how we would respond, whether we would fight back or collapse. They were studying us like animals. Silence fell over the room. Admiral Junho stood. Every eye turned to him. "We tried peace," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner. "We sent ambassadors. We asked for understanding. We followed their rules and stayed in our cage." He paused. "Now they have murdered our children to see if we would cry." He looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Presidents and generals, scientists and diplomats, all of them waiting. "No more peace," Junho said. "No more patience. Now we will teach them what fury means." The vote was unanimous. That night, General Dojin activated Project Stormfall. Hidden shipyards across the solar system roared to life. The secret fleet was nearly complete. Now it had a purpose. But the fleet was not humanity's greatest weapon. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, a scientist named Taiho Shin had spent a decade working on something impossible. He was a quiet man who preferred numbers to people. His colleagues thought he was brilliant. His superiors thought he was mad. Both were correct. When Admiral Junho came to inspect the project, Taiho led him into a massive underground chamber. At its center hung a device the size of a small moon. It pulsed with light that seemed to bend space around it. "What am I looking at?" Junho asked. Taiho adjusted his glasses. "I call it the Wrath Engine. It manipulates gravitational fields on a stellar scale." "Meaning?" Taiho turned to face the Admiral. There was no pride in his eyes, only a deep, tired sadness. "Meaning, Admiral, that we can move stars. We can push or pull any sun in the galaxy. We can send them crashing into their planets. We can drag them into the void and leave their worlds to freeze." Junho stared at the device. His mouth was dry. "Why did you build this?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. "Because I knew that someday we would need it. Because I knew that the universe would not be kind to us. And because humanity deserves to survive." He looked at the Wrath Engine. "No matter the cost." Admiral Junho placed his hand on the scientist's shoulder. "God forgive us for what we are about to do," he said. Taiho shook his head slowly. "God may forgive us, Admiral, but the Council never will." That was the point. The fleet launched at midnight. Earth time 147 warships rose from their hidden docks and formed into perfect lines. Their engines burned blue-white against the darkness of space. From Earth, they looked like new stars being born. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of the flagship, which had no name yet. He would let the crew choose one after their first victory. If there was a victory... "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Jiho Kong. He was a young man, younger than most of the bridge crew, but he had proven himself a dozen times over. His eyes were sharp, and his hands were steady. Junho trusted him completely. "Take us out, Commander. Slow and steady. Let them see us coming." The fleet crossed the quarantine line 3 days later. Alarms must have screamed across a dozen worlds. The primitives were loose. The insects had left their cage. The Council's response was swift. Within hours, 10,000 warships gathered at the border. They came from 6 different species, each one older than human civilization. Their combined firepower could crack planets in half. Their commanders had fought wars when humanity was still living in caves. They expected the human fleet to stop, to negotiate, perhaps to surrender. The human fleet kept coming. On the bridge, Ensign Nari Moon monitored the communication channels. She was barely 22, fresh from the academy, chosen for this mission because her voice was clear and her nerves were steel. She would speak for all of humanity. "They are hailing us, Admiral," she said. Junho smiled. It was not a warm smile. Let them wait. The fleet continued forward until they were within visual range of the Council Armada. 10,000 ships against 147. The math was simple. The math was wrong, now Junho said. Open a channel. All frequencies. Every ship, every world, every station in the galaxy. I want everyone to hear this. Nara's fingers flew across her console. "Channel open, Admiral?" Junho nodded to her. "Speak." Nari Moon stood. Her voice rang out across the stars. "This message is for the Galactic Council and all species under its rule. 5 years ago, we came to you in peace. We asked only to be seen as equals. You called us primitive. You called us temporary. You laughed at our ambassador and sent her home in shame." She paused. Across the galaxy, billions of beings listened. 1 year ago, you sent ships to our colony on Proxima. They killed 2 million of our people. They burned our children in their schools. And when we asked for justice, you called it an internal conflict. Her voice grew harder. You thought we would collapse? You thought we would destroy ourselves, as you predicted. You were wrong. We are not here to beg. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to teach you a lesson that you should have learned long ago. She drew a breath. Earth does not forget. Earth does not forgive. And Earth does not ask for permission. We are coming. And we will not stop until the stars themselves remember our fury. The transmission ended. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Council fleet began to move. Lieutenant Sujin Han sat at the tactical station, her eyes fixed on her screens. She had not slept more than 3 hours a night since Proxima. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flames. Every time she dreamed, she heard her nephew calling for her. "They are forming attack patterns," she reported. "Standard Council formation. Heavy ships in front, light ships on the flanks." Admiral Junho studied the display. Predictable. They have fought the same way for 10,000 years. They have forgotten how to adapt. "What are your orders, sir?" Junho turned to Commander Jiho. "Execute the falling sky." "Ah." Jiho grinned. It was a wolf's grin. "With pleasure, Admiral." The human fleet did something unexpected. Instead of engaging the enemy directly, they turned and flew toward a nearby asteroid field. The Council ships pursued, confident that they were chasing panicked prey. They were wrong. Deep in the asteroid field, Sujin activated the gravity manipulation systems. Every human ship carried a smaller version of the Wrath Engine's technology. Alone, each one was weak. Together, they were something else entirely. The asteroids began to move. Rocks the size of mountains shifted in their ancient orbits. They gathered speed, pulled by invisible hands. They formed into a wave, a tide, a storm of stone and iron hurtling toward the Council fleet. 400 ships died in the first minute. They tried to evade. But there was nowhere to go. The asteroids came from every direction. Shields meant nothing against raw mass, moving at impossible speeds. Ships that had won 100 battles were crushed like eggs. The human fleet emerged from the field untouched. They had not fired a single weapon. Across the galaxy, beings watched in horror. The primitives had just destroyed nearly 5% of the Council's combined fleet without using guns or missiles. They had used rocks. Simple rocks. What else could they do? The answer came 3 days later. Commander Jiho led the Vanguard Strike Force. 50 ships moving faster and quieter than anything the Council had ever seen. They slipped past defense grids and patrol routes. They moved like ghosts through the darkness between stars. Their target was the Council's primary shipyard, a massive station orbiting a gas giant in the Valorian home system. It had produced warships for 20,000 years. It was the heart of the Council's military power. It took Giho's force for hours to destroy it. They did not attack the station directly. Instead, they used gravity manipulation to shift the orbit of a nearby moon. Just a small shift. Just enough. The moon drifted slowly, inevitably, toward the station. When the Council realized what was happening, it was too late. The shipyard tried to evacuate. Some workers escaped. Most did not. The explosion lit up the sky of the Valorian homeworld. For the first time in 50,000 years, the ruling species of the galaxy looked up and felt fear. In the council chamber, Elder Vorik stood before his colleagues. He was ancient even by Valorian standards, old enough to remember when his people first built the council. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen anything like this. "We must negotiate," he said. "These humans, they are not what we thought. They are not primitives. There's something else. Something new." Speaker Yelthin silenced him with a gesture. "They are animals. They have won a few battles through trickery. Nothing more. We will crush them." Vorik shook his head. "You do not understand. They have not even shown us their full strength. They are holding back, playing with us. If we do not make peace now, while we still can, they will destroy everything we have built." Yelthin's black eyes burned with anger. "The council does not surrender to insects." Vorik turned and walked away. At the door, he paused. "Then the council will fall," he said, "and the insects will dance on our graves." No one listened. They would learn. 3 years of war changed everything. The council had entered the conflict with absolute confidence. They outnumbered humanity 1,000 to 1. Their technology was ancient and advanced. Their commanders had experience measured in centuries. None of it mattered. The human fleet grew stronger with each battle. They learned from every fight, adapted to every tactic. When the council used energy shields, humans found ways to overload them. When the council sent drone swarms, humans turned them against their masters. When the council tried to hide in nebulae, humans followed them into the clouds and hunted them in the darkness. By the 3rd year, the council had lost 60% of its combined fleet. Entire species had withdrawn from the war, their governments overthrown by citizens who demanded peace. The Valorian homeworld had been cut off from its colonies. The great council chamber, which had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, sat half empty. Captain Mingy, you stood on the bridge of the flagship, which the crew had named Fury of Soul. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. Before the war, she had been a cargo pilot, running supplies between Earth and its colonies. Her brother had been a teacher on Proxima B. She had watched his last message 1,000 times. He had been recording a lesson for his students when the attack began. The video cut off mid-sentence. She never found out what he had been trying to teach them. "We are in position, Captain," her navigator reported. Minji nodded. "Signal the Admiral." On another ship, Admiral Junho received the message. He was older now, his hair fully gray, his face lined with years of difficult choices. But his eyes were still sharp, his resolve had not weakened. Beside him stood Admiral Seojin Wang, his second in command. Seojin was a thoughtful man who had spent his career believing in rules and honor. The war had tested that belief every day. "The Wrath engine is ready," Junho said. "Taiho reports full power." Seojin looked at the view screen. They were positioned near the Council's capital system, the heart of the Valorian Empire. Billions of beings lived on the worlds below. Soldiers and civilians, warriors and children. "Are we really going to do this?" Seojin asked quietly. Jono was silent for a long moment. "We are going to show them what we can do. Nothing more. This is a demonstration, not an execution. And if they still refuse to surrender..." The Admiral did not answer. Deep in the heart of Europa, scientist Taiho Shen activated the Wrath engine at full power for the first time. The device hummed with energy that seemed to bend reality around it. Readings that should have been impossible flashed across his screens. Connection established, he reported through the communication link. Targeting the primary star of the Valorian home system. Awaiting your command, Admiral. Yunho closed his eyes. He thought of Proxima. He thought of the 2 million dead. He thought of the Council's laughter in their great chamber. Execute, he said. Across the vast distance of space, the Wrath engine reached out with invisible fingers. It touched the Valorian sun, a yellow star not unlike Earth's own, and it pushed. The effect was small. A shift of 0.003 degrees in the star's orbit, barely measurable by most instruments. But the Valorians measured it. Their scientists ran the calculations and went pale with terror. The shift would cause the star to move slightly closer to its inner planets, not enough to destroy them immediately, but enough to change their climates, enough to melt ice caps and raise temperatures, enough to make their homeworld uninhabitable within a year. Unless the shift was reversed, Captain Mingy opened a channel to the Council. This is the Earth vessel Fury of Soul. What you just felt was a demonstration. We have moved your sun. We can move it back. Or we can move it further. She paused, letting the words sink in. This is not a negotiation. This is a choice. Surrender now, unconditionally, and we will restore your star to its proper position. Refuse, and we will continue. Your stars will burn your worlds. Your moons will fall from your skies. Everything you have built in 50,000 years will become dust and memory. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, Speaker Yelthin stared at the reports in disbelief. His hands, which had signed death warrants for entire species, were trembling. This is impossible, he whispered. No one can move stars. Elder Vorik stood nearby. His expression was sad but not surprised. I told you, he said. I warned you years ago. These humans are not what we thought. They learned from us, yes. But they also learned from something else. Something we forgot long ago. What? Yelthin demanded. Vorix looked at the ceiling as if he could see through it to the stars beyond. Desperation, fury, the willingness to do anything to survive. We have been safe for so long that we forgot what that feels like. They never had safety. They have been fighting for their lives since they first walked upright, turned to face the remaining council members. We mocked their short lives. We called them temporary. But we forgot that those who burn briefly burn brightest. A human lives for perhaps 80 years. We live for thousands. But they pack more living into those 80 years than we do in all our centuries. What are you saying? Another council member asked. I am saying that we should have listened. We should have welcomed them as equals when we had the chance. Now it is too late for welcome. Now we can only hope for mercy. On the Fury of Soul, Admiral Syagan found Junho alone in his quarters. The Admiral was sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. The Council has not responded, Syagan said. Our deadline passes in 6 hours. Junho nodded slowly. Syagan sat down across from him. Junho, I have to ask. Are we becoming what we hated? They killed our people, yes. But if we destroy their worlds, if we burn their children the way they burned ours, what does that make us? Gunho looked at his old friend. His eyes were heavy with exhaustion and something deeper. Killed our children for sport, he said. They watched us bury 2 million people and laughed. They called it a test, Syagan. A test to see if we would break. He leaned forward. We are not killing their children. We are giving them a choice they never gave us. Surrender and live, or fight and die. That is the difference between us and them. We offer mercy. They offered only contempt. Syagan was quiet for a long time. Junho's expression hardened. Then they have chosen their fate, and we will carry out the sentence. Not with joy, not with hatred, but with the cold certainty that humanity will never be victims again. The deadline passed. The council did not respond. Admiral Junho gave the order. The Wrath engine reached out once more. This time, it did not touch the Valorian sun. Instead, it found the nearest neighboring star, a red dwarf 20 light-years away. It grabbed that star with invisible hands and pulled. The calculations were precise. In 200 years, the red dwarf would enter the Valorian system. The gravitational chaos would tear their worlds apart. Their civilization would have 2 centuries to evacuate or die. It was not immediate destruction. It was a sentence, a judgment written in the movement of stars, and it was just the beginning. The galaxy held its breath. News of the moving star spread faster than light itself. Every species, every world, every being with access to a communication device heard the same impossible story. The humans had moved a star, not with magic or divine power, but with technology they had built in secret while the Council laughed at them. The Council called an emergency vote. 8 species chose surrender. They had seen enough. They had lost enough ships, enough worlds, enough lives. The primitives had proven themselves anything but primitive, but for species, refused. The Valorans and their 3 closest allies would not bow to insects. Speaker Yelthin stood before the fractured council and delivered his defiance. "We will not surrender to animals," he declared. "We would rather die than admit that we were wrong." Admiral Junho received the news on the bridge of the Fury of Sol. He read the message twice, then set it aside. "The Valorans have refused," he told his officers. "They and their allies choose war." Commander Jiho stepped forward. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Gunho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings waited to see what humanity would do next. Would they show mercy? Would they destroy everything? The answer would define humanity's place in the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. "Give them 72 hours, Junho said. "One last chance to change their minds. After that, we proceed." The hours passed slowly. On the Valorian homeworld, protests erupted in the streets. Citizens demanded peace. Soldiers threw down their weapons. Governments that had stood for millennia collapsed in days, but Yelthin would not yield. When the deadline came, Admiral Junho kept his word. The Wrath engine activated once more. The red dwarf star, already set on its collision course, received another push. Its speed doubled. The estimated impact changed from 200 years to 100. 1 century for an entire civilization to evacuate. 1 century for billions of beings to find new homes among the stars. It was possible if they worked together. If they abandoned their pride, Yelthin still refused. His own people removed him from power 12 hours later. The new government, hastily formed from surviving military leaders and desperate diplomats, sent their surrender within the hour. The war was over. Ambassador Hannah Choi returned to the council chamber 1 month later. She walked the same path she had walked a decade ago, across the same floor, beneath the same lights. But everything else had changed. The chamber was half empty. Many species had withdrawn entirely, too ashamed or too frightened to participate. The ones who remained watched Hannah with expressions she had never seen on Alien. Faces before, respect, and fear. She stood on the central stage, the same place where she had been mocked and dismissed. General Doyon Lee stood beside her, representing Earth's military. Dr. Yuna Kim stood on her other side, representing Earth's scientific community, the new speaker of the council. A young Valoran named Sereth addressed her with careful formality. "Ambassador Choi, the Galactic Council acknowledges humanity's victory. We are prepared to accept your terms. Name your demands." Hannah was silent for a long moment. Every being in the chamber leaned forward, waiting. What would the humans take? What territories would they claim? What tribute would they demand? What revenge would they seek? "We do not want your worlds," Hannah said. "We do not want your tribute. We do not want your worship." Confusion rippled through the chamber. "Then what do you want?" Sereth asked. Hannah's voice was steady and clear. "We want justice. The species responsible for the Proxima massacre will face trial. Their leaders will answer for their crimes. The families of the dead will be compensated by those who killed them." She paused. "And we want equality. Not supremacy. Not dominance. Equality. A seat on this council with full voting rights. Recognition as a civilized species deserving of respect. Sareth blinked his dark eyes. That is all? That is everything, Hannah replied. We did not fight this war to become what you were. We fought because you gave us no choice. Now we are giving you a choice. Accept us as equals, and we will work beside you to build a better galaxy. Reject us again, and we will leave you to face whatever comes alone. She looked around the chamber at the faces, staring down at her. You called us temporary. You said we would destroy ourselves within 2 centuries. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps we will. But we will not be destroyed by you. In whatever time we have, we will spend it proving that short lives can still create lasting good. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was accepted into the council with full rights and privileges, but Hannah was not finished. I have one more thing to say, she announced. Not as an ambassador. As a human being, the chamber fell silent. You thought our short lives made us weak. You thought our passion made us primitive. You laughed at our dreams and dismissed our hopes. But you forgot something important. Her voice rose, filling the vast space. Those who have little time waste none of it on patience for cruelty. Those who know they will die learn to fight for life. Those who face the darkness find the strength to become the light. She stepped forward, her small figure somehow dominating the chamber. Earth's fury moved the stars. Let this be the lesson the galaxy never forgets. Not because we want you to fear us, but because we want you to understand us. We are not temporary. We are eternal in the only way that matters. In what we do. In what we build. In the love we leave behind. The chamber erupted in something that was not quite applause. It was acknowledgement, acceptance, perhaps even admiration. 1 year later, Admiral Junho retired to a small house on the coast of Korea. He spent his days watching the waves and reading old books. He refused all interviews and declined all honors. Dr. Yoona Kim continued her work, now leading a joint human-alien research team studying the wonders of the galaxy. Her daughter, Hayen, showed the same curiosity and brilliance. The Wrath engine was moved to the heart of Seoul and sealed behind the strongest barriers humanity could build. It would never be used again unless extinction threatened. Every year. On the anniversary of the Proxima Massacre, the entire galaxy observed a moment of silence. It was a tradition that started with humans, but spread to every species, every world. Every being who had learned what happened when the stars themselves moved in anger. And on that day, in the council chamber, a simple message played. It was Ensign Nari Moon's voice recorded during that first terrifying confrontation. Earth does not forget. Earth does not forgive. And Earth does not ask for permission. Below the message, added by the council itself, was a single line. But Earth offers mercy to those wise enough to accept it. In his quiet house by the sea, Admiral Junho wrote his final log entry. We did not want war. We wanted to be seen. We wanted to be heard. We wanted to be treated as equals in a universe that saw us as less than nothing. Now they will never look away. Now they will never stop listening. We have paid for this recognition with blood and fire and the movement of stars. He paused, looking out at the waves. Was it worth it? I do not know. I only know that it was necessary. And I know that humanity will survive, not because we are the strongest or the smartest, but because we refuse to accept that we were temporary. We wrote our names in the sky in letters of fury and starlight. He set down his pen. Let the galaxy remember. Earth is eternal, and we are just getting started. Outside, the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in colors of gold and red. The same sun that had watched humanity's first steps. The same sun that would watch whatever came next. The stars were waiting. Humanity was ready.